I, I forgot to put the record on.
You're good now. You're good now.
One of the things I wanted to discuss with you, I think really first, is I think we need to discuss why people join churches to start with.
Okay.
I think that very few people do any history on their church. What
Right.
they do is they meet people they love and whose company they enjoy, and the people treat them so wonderfully that they want to become part of that culture.
Right.
That's the way most people get into a church.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I really do understand that. And when you said about not wanting to confront a friend with too much history and ruin a relationship, my heart went out to you because I really understand that. I have lost most of my family by doing what I have researched.
Yes.
And it's painful.
Yes.
And it's painful. And they don't appreciate it anyway. They
Right.
think you're nuts. They have to have a reason. So you probably wonder what in the world made me so weird.
No, I think you were very brave.
Well, what happened for me many years ago, I took a course on the great religions of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I studied all the great religions of the world.
Okay.
And I got so fascinated with the studying of the great religions of the world, I don't think I ever quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had some very, very beautiful experiences because of that.
Yes.
I think some of the more personal ones that I've enjoyed in my own life was my relationship with the American Indians.
Mm-hmm.
The American Indians build their God around nature. Nature is their God. God created nature. And everything that they do is the emotional climate with nature.
Yeah.
And through their love and their instruction of nature, I had some beautiful experiences in my life. For example, for when I was in Humboldt County, I was quite well known for training wild Mustang horses.
Yes.
And I never had wild Mustang horses buck me off or try to hurt me because I never tried to force them to do anything.
Yes.
I loved them like my German Shepherd dog.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of time doing that, but I had some fantastic, beautiful horses.
Yes.
And all of the fun that we had in the high country, in places where people dare not go, I could take those horses that were brave enough to go. These horses would tell me when a bear was going to come into camp.
Wow.
These horses would tell me. They would light up like a Christmas tree and point like a pointer dog if something was wrong. And people don't believe that or understand that. But some of those experiences were some of the most beautiful things that I experienced.
Yes.
And then I developed a deep, deep appreciation for the culture of the Native American Indians.
Yep.
But then I never quit. I started trying to understand people and their belief systems, where they came from, and I never quit. So I've been kind of an irritant ever since.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Yes.
So, but the thing is, very, very few people ever study the culture from whence they came. Mm-hmm. And I don't hold them responsible for trusting people that they love.
Right.
You know, I do not. There's wonderful, wonderful people in every organization of every religion in the world.
Yes.
And what we really need to do is, some people will search and some people will not search, but some people that do not search become vulnerable.
Yes.
And I'm going to use the word vulnerable because if the only thing you do is go to church and pay your tithing and give your extra time and help the church make money, and if the only thing that church ever does is use that money to get bigger and more powerful and build bigger churches, you may raise an eyebrow.
Right. Right.
But if nothing causes you to go raise an eyebrow, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you want to be loved and accepted. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are many people, not a few, many people in the Mormon church that I love and accept.
Right.
Because they're wonderful people.
Yes.
Because they're wonderful people. And they know absolutely nothing about the beginnings of Mormonism.
And see, that's been my experience with a lot of Mormon people with whom I just on the surface get to know. They're very nice.
Right.
And so you just, you know, it's kind of a shocker. But remember now, I had those experiences as a young person in high school. Remember I told you?
Yeah.
So in the back of my mind, I thought, but most of them are very upbeat, they're nice, they're friendly. And that's,
right.
You know, that won't raise an eyebrow. I just had the eyebrow kind of raised in the back of my
mind. Well, you know, the thing is that because I did that, then of course I kept right on doing it all the time, because it's wisdom will set you free.
Yeah.
If, you know, and so I just kept doing that. That's became the way I started to think. And instead of judging people, I would try to figure out what their culture was, where they came from, what their values were, and respect those values. But then there was a division. There was the values in that human being standing before me.
Right.
And then there was the culture they knew nothing about.
Yes.
So I love people according to the values of that human being standing before me.
Right.
And I did not hold them responsible for what they did not know.
Yes.
Right. So that's the way it's been ever since. You know,
I think that's a wise thing because, excuse me, what I began to realize even in my church where I grew up as a little girl, that people go to church for different reasons.
Right.
And there's sort of this image thing, like in the Black community, you go to church. You know, you don't question, you don't, you know, you just do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But even as a young person, I would kind of look behind the scenes and go, I don't know. So yeah, I'm the same way. I learned you have to be very careful because people get attached to a church and that's just it. They're not going to lose those relationships.
Well, what we don't realize is we're still all tribal.
Okay.
We're basically tribal.
Yeah.
Because we're instinctively tribal. We want to fit into our tribe.
Yes.
And we're all like that. And if we had that kind of love and understanding, knowing that we're all like that, that's nature. That's our nature. That's the nature of the species from which we came.
Right.
Right. So we want to fit into our tribe. And we want acceptance and love and backing from our tribe.
That's right.
And so we need to realize that that's a human need. And respect that as a human need.
Mm-hmm.
By the same principle for a person that's inquisitive enough to be obnoxious like I am.
Same here.
Then I want to know more about my tribe.
Right.
I want to know what the assets and the liabilities are. And then I become the obnoxious person that I am. So here we go.
Right.
So here we go. But when one, and if one decides to investigate Mormonism, if they ever did decide to investigate Mormonism, they would be astounded. They would be utterly astounded to discover, because if you go into, I have that website access to on my site, a Shield and Refuge Ministry, Little Christian.
Yes. Yes.
You can get on their website and you can read all about Brigham Young's wives.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can read Joseph Smith's book, No Man Knows My History.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's a video on his wives or not, but it's in the book. Many of the wives that Joseph Smith had were married to other people.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, and they're listed in the book. And he would go to the temple and have a temple sealing and have them sealed to him in eternity so it wouldn't be adultery, and take them as a wife. Brigham Young had a wife that he wanted really bad, and he took her, but she already had a mate. And she kept going back to that mate. So he had them both sealed to him. Figure that out. And that's in Brigham Young's history. Now, today, in modern society, as educated or uneducated as we may be, most of us would raise an eyebrow about that being God's person in today's culture.
Yes.
But nobody bothers to read their history.
Right.
And they don't understand the lines between culture and power. When a person gets in a position where they think they have ultimate power, we have all the chaos that we've got going on in the world right now. We have many people in politics that think they have ultimate power, and
Right.
it doesn't have squat to do with God. And so these things happen periodically in nature. And if we don't take the courage to look within our soul and say, would I, as an individual, think that that's cool and all right with God? And you know, I don't care who you are, and I don't care what tribe you came from. Everybody's got that within their soul. You know, the thing is, in Christianity, Jesus said God is love, not judgment, not hate, not ridicule, not punishment. God is love. If we don't respect the love in our own heart, and we don't treat other people with love, we lose that connection. It's that caring, it's that human compassion, caring, that makes you care what happens to people. And it's in you, it's in your heart and soul. Nobody has to put it there. You came complete. You came complete. As a mother loves their children, as parents love their children, as you love the people that you grew up with in your tribe, that's a gift. And the quality behind it is to think, is the person whom you love capable of standing on their own 2 feet and giving people love back, or are they so terrified they're willing to be manipulated?
Oh, okay.
Now I believe, this is my opinion, honey, I can't prove this, but from my own experience, I believe that those that are manipulated are too afraid to stand on their own 2 feet because their confidence isn't that great.
I agree.
And I believe that politically, and I believe that religiously. I believe that there comes a point sometime, someplace in your life. With me, there's several of them, but when you have to choose the principles that you deeply believe in, or the sacrifice of those that you love. And some people face it politically, some people face it spiritually, and some people face it literally and physically. Right. But if nothing happens to make you make that choice, very few people make it. They just go the course of least resistance. Yeah. And they don't know any better. So bottom line, I believe personally that we need to love people for who they are and what they try to be, not for what they don't know.
Yes.
They can't be held responsible for what they don't know. And then there's another thing, Cessally, that's so important. Sometimes they know, but they're too terrified to do anything about it. Okay, too terrified.
I see that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like my sister, that we took her in and made sure she had a car and a home and everything paid for. And then when Ervil, the mass murderer, my brother-in-law's brother, finally got put into prison, then shortly after, then her husband was not afraid to come home. So he came home and decided he was going to come and get her. And for a long time, it broke my heart and I cried that she went back to Mexico with him. But here's the thing. As I got a little older, I started realizing, did I realize how afraid she was not to go? Did I realize how scared she was not to go?
Yes.
Did I realize that when he came and got her, she was alone in that house with him? I wasn't there. My husband wasn't there. We provided a house for her where she was alone.
Yes.
Did I realize what she was facing in her heart? She had left her 6 older children in Mexico, and only the 6 younger ones were with us in that house or in our community. And I got thinking about, I'll never know the fear and the terror that went on in her heart when she went back.
Right.
And the thing is, you don't, if you got a heart, you have to think of those things.
Yes.
Especially, you have to think of those things, especially when women are alone. You can't physically protect yourself from somebody bigger and stronger than you, especially when they come from a culture where it's all right to kill you to save your soul.
Right.
You know, and when they teach that in their religion, that it's all right to kill you to save your soul. Do you want to really test it out? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so. Okay.
Yes.
So the whole objective is not force. It's go when you're frustrated and you're angry and you're scared, then just go back to what Jesus said about God is love. Love people and try to get them to comprehend and understand that they're valuable and do the best they can with what they've got. Because I don't think anybody really understands the nature of a problem if they're never standing in that position themselves.
Right.
You know, so the best thing that you can do for your friend is just keep loving her.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Because she's a smart lady. And with some people, you know, if you just put a little prick in there, you never know. They may on their own decide to do a little digging.
Right.
That's what's happened to me. Some people say something and they won't push it. And then I get to thinking about that and I start researching it and find out more. Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I believe Barnes and Noble has that. I have that here in my papers.
Oh, yes.
Let me see. I made myself some notes to talk to you. I need to dye my hair another color because
I love your hair. It's just beautiful. Because I was noticing it's got a little red in it now.
Yeah, I need to dye another color. My big brother said I'd be 10 degrees smarter if I wasn't blonde.
I love your hair. Keep it like it is.
There's another one called No Man Knows My History.
I have that one.
And that book is Joseph Smith's life. And you'd be really shocked if you read Joseph Smith's life because Mormonism teaches that he was a martyr for God.
I know.
But Joseph Smith was always hunting for money. Always.
Yes, I saw that.
And so he was notorious for hunting for money. And so he decided to in one of his little adventures, he decided to start printing money from a printing press when nobody was in it. And he made up a phony bank and he loaned people a whole lot of money and he stole a whole lot of money. And then the sheriff came down on him and they started running from the sheriff, him and his brother Hiram. And actually they were killed in a shootout after that robbery. He was never a martyr for God.
Right.
He literally killed in a shootout after that robbery. But, you know, when Brigham Young moved forward and started taking everybody into the wilderness, they only had Brigham Young as a guide, which set about some precarious circumstances. Let's talk about the nonsense of them all. And some of them don't balance, okay?
All right.
Before Joseph Smith was shot, he actually ordained one of his black friends to the priesthood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was before so much of the chaos that happened in the South.
Right.
I think
Right.
I don't know the exact,
Yes.
I don't know the exact dates. But then when things started to get precarious in the South, just before Joseph Smith was killed, he started to turn his way toward the political aspect, away from his friends that were Black and toward the political aspect. So a lot of people said, well, why did Joseph Smith change his mind? That's the only thing I could find in Mormon history that gave me a key, a key
Yes.
as to why. Because when Brigham Young went forward, he hated Black people.
Right.
He actually had a man murdered for being involved with a white woman and their baby.
Right.
And so the thing is that he said that Black people were the seed of Cain, and all this negativity came down. And then lately there was another thing that came up about Joseph Smith. They said, well, that can't be right because the Mormon church took in Black people. Let's look at this again. And they found a Black girl that lived in Joseph Smith's house. And some people, and she said she loved it there and she felt like she was part of the family. And some people said that that was one of his wives, and other people said it wasn't. And there was an argument over that. Nobody will ever know. We don't know. At this late date, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we had two notorious, famous leaders of a very, very famous, one of the largest churches you can imagine, that had two completely different outlooks on the same subject.
Right.
And they're both God's mouthpiece on earth. Figure that one out.
Well, when you were talking before, it hit me. There was that whole fight about Kansas and Missouri and whether to bring slaves, and probably Joseph Smith, I get the impression he only got caught up in that because at the time the United States was expanding out west, so you had to take sides.
Right.
And that's what I think happened. And there you go. And then remember, I told you there was a whole debate between Lincoln and Stephen Douglas before the election, and they were debating slavery. So there was a lot going on then.
Right. So there was a lot of confusion, but each man, you have to look at each man, whether it was Joseph Smith or Brigham Young, made their own decision. And in this case, they weren't going the same direction. However, both of them profess to be God's one and only mouthpiece on earth.
I was in Bible study a couple of weeks ago, and this wonderful young lady, she taught last night, but she did it. Oh, you would have loved how she did this so well. I kind of brought up the whole Mormon thing just briefly. And she says, well, now remember the standards for the Bible. It has to be provable, et cetera, the three standards. And she said, so that's hearsay.
There
and
you go.
We went on to the next thing. She was really very good about how she did that. I thought, yeah, that's simple. It doesn't fit.
Well, the crazy thing is we get moving forward on standards. Brigham Young in the Journal of Discourses, and I have the copy of this, he flat said that you will obey the priesthood, and if you decide to leave or don't want to do it, that's apostasy, and you have to be blood atoned, killed to save your soul. So to try to leave the church once you were out crossing the plains was easily a death penalty. And that's in the Journal of Discourses, and it's in several places. Now, here's a better one. Here's a better one for Brigham Young's thinking. Brigham Young said that if a woman was raped or molested, it was her own fault because she didn't protect herself. And if she didn't protect herself, it was her responsibility. So now tell me, how can a little 9-year-old girl protect herself from a stepfather with a knife in his hands?
Right.
And it's the fault of the child, and it's the fault of the child. And if she gets scared and tries to pull away from the religion, it's a death sentence, it's blood atonement.
Well, see, that's where the Bible comes in and says, thou shalt not kill.
Or there you
see? And the way this young lady did it was so easy. And there was something else I want to say real quick, because I wondered how Brigham Young was sort of getting away with all this stuff. But that was when America was still, in a way, still being formed. We didn't have all the states. You know, we had people going out west. The West was wild. And so there was a lot of lawlessness. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's where you hit the nail on the head. Once Brigham Young got these people out on the range,
Yes.
and he had power over him, there was no other law. He was it.
Right. That's right.
And he carried that to any extreme that he wanted to, you know, and he blamed the women. The same time that he blamed the women, I've got one of his, I'd look it up, but we'll just refer to it for the moment. I've got one of the places where he says if a man gets into trouble and he does something wrong, and he said if he besmears himself, which sounds like having sex someplace he shouldn't have, don't betray him. Don't let him down. Back him up and support him. Now, was it God that created dual standards or Brigham Young?
Gotcha.
And yet Brigham Young talked all the time, and he was speaking for God. And I can understand why people would be so afraid of him. He didn't have any objection to kill somebody if they got in his way.
Well, there were no marshals. You know, out west back then, it was just free for all.
There you go. There you go. And he did what he wanted. But he claimed he had the power of God. He was God's mouthpiece on earth, and he was speaking for God. And many places he speaks about people that turn away from the religion should be blood atoned. You say, well, you have to shed their blood to save their soul, kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now let's just think about that just for a minute. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
The fundamentalist polygamous Mormons still teach that if you leave, you are damned forever, and you can be blood atoned to save your soul. And if nobody blood atones you, it isn't because you don't deserve it. You're no good. You're no good. Because you question, you seek, you want to learn. And then you say, well, wait a minute, I'm a little bit confused. The name of the church is the Church of Jesus Christ.
Right.
Of Latter-day Saints. So you start studying the work of Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ and Brigham Young don't get along at all.
Right.
You know, so you say, well, which is it? And then you come to realize as you study more that naming the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, makes people believe it's a Christian church, but its foundation has nothing to do with Christianity.
Right.
Its foundation has everything to do with power and sex.
Yes.
Its foundation is based on polygamy. Its foundation is based on rising in the priesthood and getting power and expanding. And they've done a beautiful job because they have been able for over 100 years to hide in the United States of America by using the name, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Jesus Christ doesn't kill somebody if they don't understand or don't do right.
Exactly.
He allows them to suffer the consequences of their own behavior.
Yes.
And this is the way Jesus Christ did it.
And he doesn't condone adultery.
Jesus Christ said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And in reality, if they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't be doing it. So it isn't going to help us or anybody else to tell them there, because until they want to hear it, they won't. You've got to want to hear it in your heart before you'll hear it.
Right, right.
And that's okay, because that's the way we're all created. If you can't touch a person's heart and make them change, then you've done the best you could. The point is to love them and guide them through it. Don't judge them through it.
Right.
You don't judge them through it. Now you can say, well, Rebecca, why have you exposed all these things? Some people want to know the truth.
Yeah, I did.
Some people will find it, and some people will be just as loving and compassionate as they were before.
Yeah.
But they will walk in the truth of who they believe Jesus Christ really was.
Right. And
you know, the thing is that I love the little the little Shield and Refuge church that
Yeah.
I love that church because of the courageousness. But you'd be surprised if you go through their Shield and Refuge ministry videotapes, you will find extreme amounts of law breaking. One of the highest is, of course, incest.
Yeah. Yes.
Extreme amounts of incest. So let's just talk about the incest for a moment.
Okay.
If the Lord created us all, and he did, and he created all of science and everything on the planet, and he did, do you think he was so retarded that he didn't know that incest would cause Fumar's disease and other things? I don't think so. I think God knew that if you did things like that, that there would be a repercussion. So why would the Lord of Lords, the God of gods of all things, add incest? You say, well, why did the Mormons add incest? Because if you go through even the temple things, they believe that God created incest because his daughter was Mary, and God had incest with his daughter Mary to create Jesus. So that justifies it. Now, if that was true, would incest be creating Fumar's deficiency disease? Fumar's deficiency is the highest in the world, among fundamentalist, polygamist Latter-day Saints. You say, what do you mean fundamentalist? When I mean fundamentalists, I mean those that believe in the basic teachings of Mormonism, fundamentalist basic teachings. And you can say, well, that's got nothing to do with it. Well, let's just stop and think about it for a minute. Not very long ago, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the main church, decriminalized polygamy. So it's not a criminal offense anymore.
You were telling me.
It's no more than just a traffic ticket. They decriminalized it. Well, you know, even before that happened, Anderson Cooper would go on his show and he'd tell the American people how many millions and millions and millions of dollars the American people spend in welfare. Not to say anything about food stamps, medical care, schooling, and that they pay for these people because polygamous men don't support their family. But
Right.
They got it legalized by comparing it to gay marriage. But gay marriage does not produce hundreds and thousands of children for the taxpayers to support.
Right.
There is no comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the COVID virus, you know, and with the hurricanes and the forest fires, is polygamy really where America wants to spend their tax dollars? Because I can guarantee you that price is going to go higher and higher and higher because they can. Now, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is one of the wealthiest churches on earth. They're planning on building 2 new temples in China. So tell me, how come a church that wealthy can't support their own children?
Right.
Why can't they be financially responsible for what they cause?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one little thing. If you follow the money trail, you will find that there's a great deal of theft and whatnot going on among the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints.
Really?
Oh yeah. Maybe I'll send you later a follow the money thing. But yeah, there's a great deal of theft going on. Now you say, well, why so much theft? Because they believe in their heart and even in the temple rituals that the church, that the people that live in this country owe them a debt. They owe them a debt for the death of Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram. And it's up to those people to take that money back from citizens of the United States because they owe them a debt. Now stop and think about that, honey. That's treason to the United States of America.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That is literally treason. So especially the fundamentalists were doing it because their wives are all on welfare and they get free medical care. They get thousands and thousands of dollars in food stamps and other things. And they have big companies that make millions of dollars, but they don't pay for their own children. And I have that proof as well. This is all provable, everything I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And they make all this money, and yet they don't pay for their children. You do.
Yep.
You know, they don't have to be financially responsible. There's no rules that we're making in this country to make them financially responsible. They just look at the United States of America as a welfare state, and they take advantage of it in every way they can. And, you
Okay.
know, the thing is, I think it's really important. People don't, we're living in such a crazy, crazy, crazy world right now. It's unfathomable.
Yes.
You know, I don't know if I told you or not, but I have a great grandson who's Black. I have great grandchildren who are part American Indian. I have a great granddaughter-in-law who's Chinese.
Wow.
And are you gonna, is any American citizen gonna look at me and tell me who I can love?
Yeah.
If they think they can, guess again.
Well, you're Miss United Nations. I love it.
Yeah, that's my family. So and I'm grateful for every single one of them.
Yes.
So
Okay.
you know, we love is the content of the heart.
Yes.
That's love.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, thank you so much, honey, for everything you do.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. You're an excellent scholar.
Thank you. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Then we'll do another one down the road. Maybe we can you know, do one about every week or so. I've got so much
Yes.
stuff that with your help, I can help people understand. I wanted to start at the real basic things today.
Yes.
And help people understand that Jesus said God is love. Judge people by what they know, not what they don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.